In just 9 minutes, uncover the shocking truths from Ezra Klein's conversation with Democrat data expert David Shor. Why are young men shifting far right? Why did minorities turn against Democrats? How did Trump become the moderate choice? This interview reveals hard truths the left won't admit. Stay till the end for 10 key takeaways. Takeaway 1. Non-white voters moving to Trump. One of the biggest surprises in the 2024 election was the significant shift of non-white voters toward Trump. Over the years, Democrats assumed that minorities, particularly Hispanics and Asians, would remain a stronghold for them. But the data showed otherwise. Hispanic moderates who once voted overwhelmingly Democratic dropped from 81% in 2016 to just 58% in 2024. A similar trend was seen among Asian and Black voters, with more conservatives in these groups shifting toward the GOP. The assumption that Trump's hardline immigration stance would drive away immigrants did not hold true. In fact, Trump performed better among immigrant communities than ever before. Inflation and economic concerns seemed to outweigh fears about immigration policies, leading more working-class, non-white voters to vote Republican. For example, in counties with large immigrant populations, such as Queens, New York, and Miami-Dade, Florida, Trump's vote share increased by about 10 percentage points. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 2, young voters moving to Trump. Democrats had long believed that young voters would always lean left. However, 2024 proved them wrong. Young men, particularly white men under 25, shifted toward Trump at a much higher rate than expected. The gender gap widened, with young women remaining more Democratic but young men moving decisively rightward. Online spaces have played a role in shaping political beliefs, with young men consuming different content that often leans conservative. This shift is not just an American trend, but part of a global pattern where younger, working-class men lean toward right-wing parties. For example, the podcast noted that white men over 75 supported Harris at a higher rate than white men in their early 20s, highlighting a complete reversal of traditional voting expectations. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 3, voters saw Trump as more moderate. Despite Trump's reputation as extreme, many voters perceived him as more moderate than Kamala Harris. In polls, 49% of voters viewed Harris as more liberal than me, while only 39% saw Trump as more conservative than me. Trump's mix of policies confused traditional ideological lines, allowing him to appear moderate to some groups. His stance on economic issues, such as protecting Social Security and Medicare, made him seem less extreme than Republican predecessors. The perception that Democrats had moved too far left contributed to this shift in how voters categorized Trump. For example, Trump was far right on immigration, but campaigned on tax policies that were seen as more populist compared to other Republicans. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 4, the Democrats' toxic brand. A recurring theme in the discussion was that the Democratic brand had become toxic in many parts of the country. Democrats struggled to win over working-class voters, even in areas where they were competitive a few years ago. The perception that Democrats prioritize elite concerns over working-class issues hurt them in key states. Running as a Democrat in red or swing states had become a disadvantage due to national branding issues. Some analysts suggested running candidates as independents in certain states to distance them from the Democratic label. For example, in Nebraska, an independent candidate outperformed expectations by distancing themselves from the Democratic Party. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 5, Harris's most effective ads. Some of the most successful ads in the campaign focused on economic concerns rather than ideological battles. Harris's best-performing ad acknowledged inflation and high living costs while proposing solutions. A separate ad attacking Trump's proposed national sales tax also performed well, as it directly impacted middle-class voters. Economic messaging was more effective than ads focused on democracy or authoritarianism. Despite this, Democrats shifted their messaging toward democracy-related concerns in the later stages of the campaign. For example, Harris's top ad discussed cracking down on price gougers and lowering grocery bills, which resonated more than broader ideological messaging. We're halfway through the video. Thank you for sticking with us this far. If you're enjoying it, please give us a thumbs up and share it in your WhatsApp groups. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to comment below. To see more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Now let's continue with the video. Takeaway 6. Voters wanted change. A major driver of Trump's support was the desire for a shakeup in the system. Voters expressed frustration with the status quo and wanted significant changes. The need for shock therapy in government was a recurring theme among undecided voters. Even moderate voters preferred candidates who expressed frustration with the system rather than those who defended it. Democrats struggled to balance their image as stable leaders while also acknowledging voter anger. For example, polling showed that candidates who acknowledged economic struggles outperformed those who focused on institutional stability. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 7. The impact of TikTok. Social media, particularly TikTok, played a role in shaping young voters' political leanings. Different algorithms pushed young men and women into separate ideological spaces. Conservative influencers gained significant traction among young male voters. Many younger voters were disengaged from traditional media and relied entirely on digital content. Democrats failed to engage effectively in these online spaces, allowing right-wing content to dominate. For example, a young man interested in UFC and other male-dominated interests would likely be fed conservative-leaning content, reinforcing right-wing narratives. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 8. Trump's unpopular policies. Despite his gains with certain voters, Trump's policies remained broadly unpopular. Proposals to cut Medicare and Social Security hurt Trump's approval rating. Voters disliked efforts to cut government services without compromise. His close association with billionaires and tax policies favoring the wealthy remained a weak point. However, these policy concerns did not outweigh economic dissatisfaction for many voters. For example, ads highlighting Trump's support for a national sales tax increased disapproval by 2.5 points, showing that economic concerns could still be leveraged against him. Now let's move to the next takeaway. Takeaway 9. Anger at the Biden administration. Many voters who shifted to Trump were not necessarily strong supporters of him, but were dissatisfied with the Biden administration. Biden's approval rating had declined sharply compared to 2020. Voters who were on the fence in 2020 were more likely to switch to Trump rather than stay home. Inflation and economic struggles were cited as major reasons for dissatisfaction. Even voters who disliked Trump felt that the Democratic Party had failed to address key concerns. For example, exit polls showed that while Trump remained unpopular, Biden's approval rating had dropped more significantly, making the choice about rejecting the incumbent rather than embracing the challenger. Now let's move to the last takeaway. Takeaway 10. Voters trust Republicans more. On nearly every major issue, voters expressed more trust in Republicans than in Democrats. Republicans had strong leads on economic issues, national security, and crime. Even issues like Social Security, which traditionally favored Democrats, had shifted toward Republican trust. The only significant Democratic advantage remained in healthcare. This loss of trust made it harder for Democrats to persuade undecided voters. For example, on the issue of economic management, Republicans had a 15-point trust advantage, making it difficult for Democrats to win on that front. These takeaways highlight the key shifts in voter behavior and party strategies from the 2024 election. The loss of trust, economic struggles, and changing demographics played a huge role in shaping the outcome, and these factors will continue to influence future elections. Here is a brief introduction about David Shor. David Shor is the head of data science at Blue Rose Research, a Democratic polling firm, which does an enormous amount of surveying of the electorate. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, please leave a like below and share this video in your WhatsApp groups. You can also discuss about this video by commenting below. To get more such videos in your timeline, press the subscribe button below.